Randy, it's Monday, March 29th. How you doing?
Doing a lot better than I was this time last week. And let me tell you, Teddy, a little
Yeah.
bit of sickness goes a long way, and I'm on the upswing. So that's a good thing. And the sun is out, and it feels beautiful outside. So I'm ready for a new week, and I'm glad we got together because we have a special show this week, and
That's right.
we've got a special anniversary show coming up the next week. So,
Yeah.
how was your weekend?
Man, fantastic. I went outside and played out in the sun as long as the sun lasted, and then it rained, and then I went into the garage and did some woodworking and made some knick-knack woodworking ideas. So it was fun. So I mowed the grass too, buddy.
It looks like you played a little bit. Is that a Rolodex I see behind you, Teddy? I know
that is. That's a real Rolodex, right now. I've always talked about a Rolodex, and now I have. I used to have one of those back years and years ago. So, but
mimeograph machine, yeah, you got a mimeograph machine. You got what all you got going on there?
Well, I got my typewriter. Where's my typewriter? I can, I got that happening. Where's my? Let's see, do this. So there's my typewriter, and there's my phone.
Yeah.
Very
nice.
All the necessary tools for the trade, buddy.
Well, good. So where are we headed this week, Teddy? What's on our agenda?
Well, let's we're going to talk this Wednesday when Maribeth Geraci joins us. We're going to talk about personal branding, and do you have a personal branding story, Randy?
Hey, there are a lot of different ways we can talk about branding, and one of the ones that people talk a lot about today is social media and how we brand ourselves on there. And so I'm not going to hit that today, but I have an old recruiter story that let's go with this, and let's assume this is true. But when I was a young recruiter starting out, a lot of times on Friday afternoon, we couldn't get through to any hiring managers, but yet we were still at work. And so we would sit around and just tell stories about what I'll call our stupid employee tricks or stupid candidate tricks.
Yeah.
And there was this one instance of a candidate who was going to interview. He's an engineer. He's going to interview with the plant manager. I assume he was an engineer, but in any event, so he's going to interview with the plant manager. He showed up well in advance, drove his car to the visitor parking area, which is right by the front door. And the plant manager's office also had a window right by the front door. And so the manager happens to look out whenever a new car pulls in. And lo and behold, it was the candidate. Well, the candidate is in the car preparing for his interview. Picking his nose, sniffing his armpits, he's checking his breath, he's doing his tie, he's doing all these things, combing his hair, but the nose pick was the big one. And by this time, the plant manager is just laughing, right?
Yeah.
And so didn't think anything of it. I was like, that guy's an idiot. Well, lo and behold, as I'm sure you know where this is headed, about 20 minutes or so later, receptionist says your interview is here. And so the plant manager goes out to the lobby, and guess who the candidate is? And the candidate sticks out his hand to shake the employer's hand, the same hand, because he's a righty, that he used to groom himself so eloquently before the interview. Needless to say, he didn't get the job. The only thing the employer could think is, and I don't know that you had hand sanitizer back then, but if you did, that would have been a good use for it. Point being, this guy never knew what hit him. He never knew that what he was doing, while it was good intention or well-intentioned, it was something that was within the view of, the employer. And so in this case, my caution to anybody is when you check your appearance, do so off-site where nobody is going to see it that could have it come back to haunt you a little bit. I could go on. There are plenty of other stories, but that one stuck out in my mind because this poor fella never knew. And after the interview, the plant manager talked to the recruiter who was sharing the story and actually told the recruiter, hey, this guy's background was really, really good. He said, but I could not get past what I had seen. So that whole thing about first impressions mean a lot. There you go. Exhibit A. So pay attention. So there you go.
Yeah. Mine's not quite that bizarre.
I'm a pretty bizarre guy, Teddy. I run around with some bizarre characters.
Comes with the package where you hang out. Yeah. Hey, so I used to be a recruiter.
Yeah.
And in a previous life, I was in the office and I'm in a cubicle and, maybe 45 feet away from the receptionist, and I had a candidate who was late. And he for a first interview, and he showed up 15, 20 minutes late. And my rule is if you're 15, 20 minutes late, I'm moved on to other things. I can't wait, I just, and I didn't have the ability back then to send the guy a text message and say, hey, you missed the interview, reschedule and do it again. Today, I have all the systems in place to do that. Well, he shows up late, and the receptionist's name was Sandy. I heard him talking to Sandy. I know I'm late, but tell Mr. Burriss I'm here. I want this job. I'm here. And I had to move on to other things. It wasn't that I had the flexibility to wait for this guy. She said, no, you're going to have to call and reschedule. He got a little bit belligerent, just a little bit belligerent with Sandy. Mm-hmm. And so I could hear the whole thing because we were in an open space. Mm-hmm. He couldn't see me, but I could hear it all. So I walked up front and I introduced myself to him. I said, I would be absolutely open to you coming back another time. But you just made a huge mistake. You caused this situation by not being here on time. It's not Sandy's fault that I won't see you. It's your fault because you didn't show up. So now, when you call or email to reschedule for another interview, I'm not likely to take you serious. I was trying to be polite, but I was also trying to be very blunt. You failed because you mistreated one of my fellow employees. Yeah. And he pressed me one time. That's all I'd give him to do. And then I said to him, now it's time for you to leave. Now, very infrequently does that happen. Yeah. However, you have to think about the words you use, the tone you use when you're engaging, not dealing, but when you're engaging with other people, because that is a huge branding activity, the words you use and the tone you use. So, by the way, I didn't hire that guy.
That would have been my wild guess.
Yeah.
You sent him down to you sent him over to me, right?
No, I didn't do that to you. So, but personal branding is important. And on our this week on Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time, Maribeth Geraci will be with us, and she'll talk a little bit more about some other ideas about branding that are important to us. So, now remember this, Randy. I think we got our ducks in a row. We're ready for it. Week after this, on the 7th. April 7th at noon Eastern Standard Time, we're going to have an extended show. By the way, Randy, get a little bit extra sleep that day. Okay.
You know what? I saw a study, Teddy, talking about sleep. It was I saw it on the news the other day. Actually, I saw it online, and I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but it was a huge percentage of folks that do not get nearly enough sleep. Yeah, they just don't. And whether it's social media, playing on the phone at night, or watching Netflix, or who knows what, they don't sleep enough. And I think we all need. I've really gotten a lot of extra rest this last week, but I'll tell you what, I've needed it because it's wearing me down. But yeah, we've got a good show coming up. That'll be really cool, Teddy. Can we have enough material to go 90 minutes?
Well, I think we do, because Randy, we are fortunate that we have 10 of our special guests from the past year who are able to join us, and they're going to bring in ideas, and they're going to remind us about the conversation. They're going to talk a little bit about how life has changed in their world that's relevant to job seekers, and so I think between our 10 special guests and the stories that you and I can come up with, we got plenty of material to do an hour and a half show that will be enjoyable. Rule number 1, it's got to be fun. Yeah. And rule number 2, it's got to be beneficial to our target audience.
So this Wednesday is our final 1-year regular show.
Yeah.
we started this thing when COVID sent us home. And so we thought, let's try it for a week and we'll see how it goes. So, and we lucked into 52 weeks.
Yeah. No, we lucked into it, but we really, I think we've done a great job attracting and finding special guests. Because, man, it's been huge. The people we bring to this show have been absolutely phenomenal. Smart people.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing every week to sit down and talk about interviews and resumes and cover letters and networking. And after you hear that for once or twice or 3 times, then you're done. I mean, at some point, it's a good refresher, but professional development, just a whole host of things that we've covered. So we invite folks to check us out this coming Wednesday on the 31st, and then April 7th is the anniversary show. Hey, do we have a tip? Do we have time for a quick job?
Well, we better, because we promise every Monday to give a career tip. So do you have one?
Well, I do. And interestingly enough, I had a call this morning, and I also had a similar conversation on Friday with a client. And the essence of the conversation was that they needed a job sooner versus later. It may not have to be the right or the optimal job, but they need employment because the bills don't stop. And so how do I find a job that's reasonable in a short period of time? And the response typically will be to check with recruiting firms, staffing firms, because they have their ear to the ground. They know where the needs are, where the openings are today. And if you can impress the recruiter, then they, again, having the ear of that employer, can go a long way toward presenting you and positioning you as somebody that could be a good fit for that opening, versus sitting at home all day long on the computer. Yeah, there are jobs supposedly out there, but you're just another in the big stack. So I would form some relationships sooner versus later with staffing firms, recruiting firms, and enlist their help when you need a job yesterday. That's the quickest path to a job. And it's a foot in the door. Let's face it. You never know where it may lead. And especially with companies ramping up now more and more as COVID kind of becomes in the rearview mirror somewhat, they're looking for good talent. Yeah. And so maybe this foot in the door leads to a permanent full-time gig. You'll never know until you try it. And that's my feedback for those clients and for anybody that's watching. Check those firms first.
May not be your ideal job, but if you need a job quickly, you're going to get whatever you can get to start creating revenue.
Yep. And they were both pretty much in that same situation. It is what it is. Yep.
Yeah. So here's my tip of the day.
Yeah.
My tip of the day is get referrals on your upcoming boss. Now, look, here's what I mean by this. If you're applying for a job and you're looking in a specific department, you're going to find out. If you don't know yet, you're going to quickly find out who's the department head, who's the leader, who's going to be your boss. And they're doing referrals on you. They're calling your ex-employers, their ex-employees that you work with, and they're going to ask, is this Teddy dude worth hiring, and words to that effect.
Hey, we're breaking up. I'm sorry, we're breaking up. What?
I'm only obligated to say he's checked off or marked for rehire. But the truth is they're getting referrals on you. Why don't you get referrals on your future boss before you accept that job? So figure out who the department head, who's your boss going to be, and find someone that worked with him or knows him or her, and just ask some basic questions about it. I'm not saying be critical, but I am saying do your research, because it's the right thing to do before you take that job. So,
Hey, Teddy, we're going to deviate for a quick second, and I'll address a question that popped up in the chat area. The question is, what are some good staffing and recruiting firms? And I'm not going to name names here today of the actual firms, because we are, after all, a global entity, Teddy. We're a global entity. Yeah. But here's a thought. And this dovetails with what Teddy says. When they're checking you out and they're doing referrals on you and your boss, do the same thing with recruiting firms. Who are some people that who have changed jobs? We all know people who've changed jobs. Call them up. Ask them, how did you get that job? Was it through a recruiter? Was it through a staffing firm? Did you find it on your own? How did you learn of that? And so word of mouth works that same way too. if you have people, especially people who do the kind of work you do, and they left and they had a good experience with a recruiter, well, guess what? That's probably a good recruiter for you. The other ways are more impersonal, but you can go online and conduct searches on LinkedIn and on the internet to identify recruiters who work in certain industries, certain job functions, that kind of a thing. But ultimately, word of mouth and referrals, just like the good Dr. Burriss here referred to, that's the best path to finding somebody who ideally would be the best fit for you.
Yeah,
it would be.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I dropped a link to ncwiseman.com. It has a list of all those of career resources. Again, it's ncwiseman.com. And there's a whole list of recruiters that's in there, a whole page of them. So, and as Randy said, ask others who they work with is the best way. So, all right, we're hitting it, Randy. We're at 16 minutes. Thanks a lot for everybody joining us. Hope you come and join us this Wednesday and next Wednesday for the anniversary show. Everybody have a great Monday, and we'll see you in a couple days.
That'll work.
See you, everybody.
Great day.